Hi, I'm Kathy Thielot. I'm a spiritual director and I coordinate spiritual direction at the Norbertine Center for Spirituality at St. Norbert Abbey in De Pere. I hope you've been enjoying this week's series, There is a Season. On Monday, we were introduced to spring, that time of renewal and rebirth and resurrection. On Tuesday, it was the abundance of summer. And on Wednesday, that time of letting go, the balance between light and dark, that is autumn. And so, that brings us to winter. Now, I will be honest with you, I haven't always been a big fan. But that changed for me about 10 years ago when I was on retreat. I was at a retreat center in the mountains outside of Snowmass called St. Benedict's Monastery. It was January that I was there. And I was there in January simply because they had a cancellation and I couldn't get in earlier. It was cold when I got there. There was a lot of snow and the mountains just seemed so severe. I was kind of complaining to my spiritual director about it, that I said, I don't even like winter. I can't believe I'm here now. And she said, you know, if you'd be here in the summertime, you'd have a very different experience. She said, summertime is buzzy, it's busy, there's so much activity. But she said, you're here in the most beautiful time of the year. And I hope you can enjoy it. I hope you can see the gift that you've been given. So she gave me an assignment. My assignment was to simply notice. And not notice from the safety of the retreat center, but get out in the winter and see what it has to tell me. And so I did as I was told. I slowed down and I noticed. And one of the things that I noticed was I had been given an incredible gift. 8 days on retreat, a silent retreat I might add, which for an introvert doesn't get any better than that. At a beautiful retreat center with amazing staff and amazing food and this incredible view outside my window of Mount Sopris. This mountain so big that it doesn't lose its ice cap even in the summertime. I noticed how still it was. And even though it looked like life was not happening, there was much going on around me. The night sky was filled with more stars than you can possibly imagine. In fact, a group of us went down to the monastery and Abbot Joseph gave us a little stargazing, a tour of the sky. It was so quiet and it was so peaceful. And for a good portion of the week, the snow fell ever so lightly. It reminded me of that reading from 1 Kings when the Lord speaks to Elijah on Mount Horeb. And we hear of this great wind that rushed through the mountains and shattered the stones. But the Lord wasn't in the wind. And then there was an earthquake. But the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And following the earthquake was a fire. But the Lord wasn't in the fire. And after the fire came a small, still voice. That was the gift that I was given on my retreat, to slow down, to listen for that small, still voice, and to appreciate fallow time. All living things need a time of deep rest. And if that wasn't enough, when I was walking through the retreat center, passing a bookshelf, a book fell out in front of me. When I reached down and picked it up, it was Sabbath by Wayne Muller. You think someone was trying to tell me something? Winters in Colorado, just like here in Wisconsin, can be harsh and they can be difficult. And so can be the season of winter in our spiritual lives. It may be the loss of someone we love to death. It may be an illness that somebody has, or maybe our own illness. It might be depression. It might be a loss of meaning and purpose in our lives. It might be a sense of loneliness. It might be the loss of a relationship, even our relationship with God. Perhaps you're feeling alone and that God is 1,000 miles away. But the promise of winter, of the fallow time, is the invitation to slow down and to turn toward our pain and to see what it has to tell us. Parker Palmer writes, "Until we enter into our fears we want to most avoid, those fears will dominate our lives. But when we walk directly into them, protected by the garb of friendship or spiritual guidance, we can learn what they have to teach us." The winters of our lives invite us to slow down and to go inside, both literally and figuratively. There are lots of fires and earthquakes and winds in our lives. But just like we learn in that reading from 1 Kings, the importance of getting quiet and noticing. The winter of our spiritual life invites us to be curious, just like that group of retreatants staring up at the sky in the night. To trust that even though it appears in our world that it is lifeless and void, there are indeed things happening, like seeds that need a cold period of time before they can spring open. There are preparations that are being made for spring, the time of new rebirth. Winter invites us to trust that that God who walks with us during the less harsh, the kinder, gentler seasons of our life is walking with us right now in the winters of our lives. And so, there is a season. And the cycle of seasons reminds us that the journey never ends. We hope you've enjoyed this series, and we wish you blessings on your journey.